So is what we use for our outputs is the blue colored wire. It doesn't show it here, but we really prefer that besides the color coordination, in fact it should be mandatory that you also use wire numbers, marker numbers, anything to tell me that this, say these wires came out, or you had, the main reason really is if you have to remove this box, it makes it a lot easier if you know that this one is 1 and this one is 2, or 2 and 1, just so that it's designated some way. I mean, looking at 2 blue wires means nothing, right? When it's dark, windy, raining, and you're trying to install the new box. Sure helps if you can come out here and say, oh, wire 1 is in the common terminal, wire 2 is in the normally closed terminal, that sort of thing. It makes it a lot easier for rewiring. That's the main reason why I say everybody should label their wires in some way or another. So with our inputs, if we look at the input terminal here, we have in and a common. Once again, we use color-coded wire. Our orange wire is for inputs. Again, we'd like you to label them appropriately in case you or somebody else ever has to remove this device and put a new one on. It makes it a lot easier. On the inside of the box where these 2 orange wires go, and once again, this is our demonstration panel. On this particular contactor, we actually have an auxiliary contact, normally open, so contactor pulls in, those contacts close, contactor open, auxiliary contacts are open. On most pump sites that you'll go to, however, there won't be that set of auxiliary contacts, and the orange wires will thus be fed either directly into the bottom side of the contactor, or where the wires come out and they're lugged in to go out to the actual pump, you'll tie into those lugs themselves, either by loosening the lug, shoving the wire in, or if you actually have lug connectors, one or the other. Here I'll turn on our power on this guy. Once again, our contactor is open. You'll see right there. So are our auxiliary contacts. Now if we go switch it into hand mode, see that the contactor pulled in. So did our auxiliary contacts, and there we're seeing that 120 volts in this particular application. That's our control circuit voltage. Based on that, with our inputs wired in and everything, we can tell remotely at our network operations center in Boise if the pump is running or if it's not, which becomes very important when you're trying to shed load. So this would be a standard pump panel. There will be times that the pump panel will be equipped with a VFD, which is a little more sophisticated, of course. It may or may not have a handoff auto switch. 95% of the time they will. Probably 85% of the time is what we tie into on the VFD to interrupt the VFD would be the handoff auto switch, but there are times where we actually have to interrupt on the VFD also, kind of in parallel with the handoff auto switch. There is what we do. Usually there's a stop run jumper that's on the VFD itself. So you'll have to put in another relay in here that will tie in parallel with our output on this device. So when this contact opens up, it'll also open up that run stop contact on the VFD. Probably 90% of the time that's the way the VFD is set up, but sometimes the VFD will use either an optional run or stop input, which will be a separate terminal from the run stop input that they use. In those cases, I usually myself I go in and take a look at those applications and figure out which wire it's going to be, but there might be times when we're not able to get out there and you guys will be doing it on your own. So in effect, you need to evaluate the panel, figure out what makes it start, stop, auto turn on, things like that, before you actually wire your inputs or your outputs in. I take a quick evaluation of it, note it down. That's something we will want to know back here after you leave the pump site in case there is a problem. Also, in some VFD applications, there might not even be a handoff auto switch. In those cases, we will either, you will have to go out and purchase a handoff auto switch, bring it with me. Actually, we would kind of like it if you just keep them in your truck, always have a spare one. So it might be a handoff auto switch and a start button, or just a handoff auto, depends on the application. Other things, say for instance, if it is a VFD, well, it's more than likely going to have an auto function. That auto function would be, hold the VFD at a certain speed to maintain a certain pressure, that type of thing. So once again, that would be your evaluation while you're at the pump site to take that into account and figure out how to use our device that has a simple, normally closed output on it and our inputs, and have it work just like the basic pump panel.